Shalom. I want to give all honor, glory, and praises to the one and only true living God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ. In this video, we're going to be getting into precepts dealing with slothfulness, right? Being a sluggard or being lazy, right? The Lord's not dealing with that, right? We got to come up out of that slothful nature, right? And be on fire, right? Continue to go hard for the Most High God so that we don't give leeway to Satan, right? To overcome us, right? We got to continue to be a good soldier of Yahweh Shai Mashiach, right? And endure to the end, right? We gotta study, we gotta fast, we gotta pray, right? We gotta read, right? You shouldn't be in this truth, going days without reading. You shouldn't even be going one day without reading, without studying. Right? You gotta constantly be in this word, right? You gotta constantly be dealing with wisdom, right? We're gonna start off with the book of Proverbs, chapter 6 and verse 4. It says, "Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids." Right? So the Lord's not telling us not to sleep, right? But he's saying what? Don't be lazy, right? When you're reading, when you're studying, right? Or even when you don't want to read and study, the Lord said, don't give sleep to thine eyelids, right? Because slowly and slowly, if you do that, you're going to start to fall out. You're going to start to fall asleep, right? You're going to go one day without reading, and then that's going to turn into 2 days. It's going to turn into a week, and so on and so forth. And next thing you know, you end up putting your Bible down, right? And you end up back in the world, right? So when you're reading, right, and you're tired, right, read a couple of extra chapters, right? Go hard for the Most High, right? When you're studying, right, study for that extra, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, right? Don't give sleep to thine eyelids, right? It says, "Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler." Right? So we got to deliver ourselves from that slothful nature, from that lazy nature, right? Because that lazy nature is going to, going to end up being the fall, right? It's going to cause the fall of that individual that doesn't want to read, doesn't want to study, right? Doesn't want to fast, doesn't want to pray, right? So we got to deliver ourselves from that slothful nature, right? Reading on, it says, verse 6, Proverbs 6 and 6, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise," right? So the Lord said, look, go to the ant and consider her ways. Why did the Lord tell us to go to the ant, right? Because you can learn a lot from these animals and these insects that the Most High created. Right? When you go and you examine an ant, you never catch an ant being lazy, sitting down, chilling, not doing nothing, right? Ants are constantly on the move, right? They're constantly laboring day in and day out, right? They don't rest. It's the same way we got to be in this truth, right? We got to constantly be reading, constantly be fasting, constantly be praying, right? Constantly be studying, right? Going through these precepts, going through these law, statute, commandments, right? You should have little to no idle time, right? You should constantly have something to do, right? In this truth, right? You got to continue to go hard for the Most High God, because if you don't, right, during that idle time that you want to be slothful and lazy, right, you're giving your eyelids to sleep, right? Satan's going to come within your mind and cause you to go off, right? It's going to bring wicked thoughts within, right, which may turn into action, right? So the way to combat that is by this word, right? Like it says in the book of Hebrews 4 and verse 12. The Lord said the word of the Lord is sharper than a two-edged sword, right? But how you going to know how to combat against spirits that's coming up against you if you're not reading and you're not studying, right? You're not praying, right? You're not fasting, right? So the Lord said, go to the ant and consider her ways and be wise, right? Because the ants are wise, right? They're constantly laboring, right? And we got to be the same way. It says, which having no guide, overseer or ruler, right? Because an ant doesn't have a guide and an overseer and a ruler that's telling them what to do, right? They labor willingly, right? It's just in them. That's what they want to do, right? And we're supposed to be the same way, right? We shouldn't have to have somebody over us, right? Especially if you're in a congregation, you shouldn't have, your elders shouldn't have to come to you, right, and ask you constantly, hey, did you read today? Did you study? Did you fast? Did you pray? And so on and so forth, right? You should be doing this willingly, right? You should be on it, on fire, day in and day out, right? It says, provided her meat in the summer and gather her food in the harvest, right? So the ants are constantly laboring, right? They're constantly laboring, right? And they have, sufficient food to eat because they've been out there day in and day out, right? So they're not gonna starve and go through that famine. And on a spiritual level, right, if you're not out there laboring, right, constantly, laboring and doing the works of the Most High God, how you expect to be spiritually fed, right? You're gonna just like in the book of Ezekiel, right? The Lord said, "Can these dry bones live?" Right? And they began to live when Ezekiel prophesied unto them, right? And they began to get sinews and skin upon them, right? And they started to live, right? But if you're not laboring and you're not constantly studying and fasting and praying and reading, right, doing the works of the Most High God, right, those same bones which began to come alive, right, and to live, right, they're gonna start to go back to decay, right? That skin, the flesh is going to start to consume away on a spiritual level, right? You're going to start to lose the understanding, the knowledge, and the wisdom that the Most High gave you, right? You're going to slowly go back into the world and into the congregation of the dead, right? It says, reading on, Proverbs 6 and verse 9. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? So the Lord said, how long you going to sleep? How long you going to continue to not read and study and pray and fast, right, and do my works, right? How long you going to continue to put off from day to day, right? Didn't the Lord say, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord? Matter of fact, let's go to the book of Sirach, right? We got to stop being, lazy and stop, having that type of nature. We can't move in that type of way, being the children of Israel, right? We got to go hard for the Most High God. We're in the last days, right? And all hell's going to break loose. How you going to, Salaki, how you going to be able to sustain yourself out here if you don't got the knowledge and wisdom of the Most High God to guide you in the way that you should go? Now, you're not going to be able to do it with the wisdom of this world, right? Because the wisdom of this world is foolishness with the Most High God. Salaki, book of Sirach, chapter 5 and verse 7. It says, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. Right? So you shouldn't be tarrying to turn to the Lord. Right? Now I'll read later on. I'll read 2 hours from now. Right? Because that 2 hours is going to turn to 3. Right? Those 3 hours is going to turn into not reading. Right? It says, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. Right? So you keep putting off from day to day, right? Not wanting to read, not wanting to study. You want to continue to be lazy, a sluggard, right? The Lord said in your security, when you start to feel secure, like nothing's going to happen, right? The Lord said, suddenly, right, thou shalt be destroyed, right? And perish in the day of vengeance, right? So we cannot be lazy. We cannot be, slothful in this truth. We got to continue to labor in this thing, right? In the spiritual sense, like in the scriptures, it tells us, right? We're those spiritual building blocks, right? We got to constantly be building up the kingdom spiritually. And how you going to do that if you're not fasting, right? You're not reading, you're not studying, right? You're not laboring, right? How you going to be able to plant a seed, or teach the next brother or sister anything if you're not reading and studying, right? You got to constantly be digging in this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom that the Most High has given us, right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah real quick, right? Because the Lord He's giving it to us free, right? The Lord's giving it to us free, right? But our people is lazy and they don't want it, right? It's free food, right? It's free food for the spirit. But a lot of our people, they rather, indulge in laziness, right? Book of Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 1. It says, ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that have no money, come ye, buy, eat, yet come buy wine and milk without money and without price, right? Talking about the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, right? The Lord has given it to us, right? And it's free. He said, look, I'm not selling it. All you got to do, pick up your scriptures, right? Read them, study them, right? Fast, pray, do the works of the Most High God, right? He will give wisdom unto you, right? It says, verse 2, wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, right? Why you out there spending money, right? In the spiritual sense, meaning what? Spending all your time on things that's not bread, that's not spiritual food for your soul, that has anything to do for your salvation, right? Constantly on Facebook, constantly on TikTok, Instagram, right? Constantly watching TV, constantly out and about. These things are not going to profit you any day. I'm slacking anything, right? And the day of vengeance, when the Lord brings, destruction to this place. Right? You're not going to know how to move out here because you weren't indulging yourself in the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom of the Most High God. You refuse to take this free spiritual food, right? And walk in the ways of your own heart, right? It says, wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfies not, right? Because people they're lazy to do the labor of the Most High God, right? They're lazy to do the works of the Lord, right? But they're not lazy to go out there and smoke weed. They're not lazy to go out there to the clubs. They're not lazy to go and and indulge in all type of wickedness, right? They're not lazy to go to church on Sunday, right? But they're lazy when it comes to the works of the Lord, to read, right? It says, wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfies not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat that which is good, right? The Lord said, come and eat this which is good, because it's going to save your soul, right? It says, and let your soul delight itself in fatness, right? Because this is going to spiritually feed you, right? It's going to spiritually feed you and uplift you and keep you going in the way of righteousness of the Most High God. It says, incline your ear and come unto me. Hear, and your soul shall live. And I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. You see that? Because at the end of the day, right, this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom of the Most High God is what's going to sustain us, is what's going to guide us and lead us, in the time of need. Right? It's the book Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 6. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. Right? So this wisdom and this knowledge, right, these holy scriptures that the Most High has given us is going to be the stability of our time, right? When all hell's breaking loose, right, when we're going through different things in life, this is what's going to be here to guide us and lead us in the way of righteousness, right, so that we don't fall astray, right? So back in Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 9 again, how long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou rise out of thy sleep, right? How long are you going to sleep and continue to be lazy and not want to do the works of the Lord? Continue to not want to go out to the highways and byways, right, to try to wake your people up. Continue to not read, to fast, to study, right? Continue to just put off from day to day, right? Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 13 and verse 11, right? Because the Lord said it's time to wake up, right? It's time to wake up and put off that slothful nature, right? It's the book of Romans, chapter 13. In verse 11, it says, and that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep, right? Right now, it's time to wake out of sleep. It's time to stop being slothful, stop being lazy, and continue to do the works of the Lord, so that, Lord willing, we can be saved in that day, right? It says, and that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed, right? The night is far spent. The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of the light, right? Because anything contrary to the Lord, and if you're putting anything before the Heavenly Father, that's darkness, that's wickedness, right? So you got to put off that weak nature, right, and become a man or become a godly woman of the Most High God and come back and do these works of the Heavenly Father, right? Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 10. It says, yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man, right? The Lord said, yet a little sleep, a little slumber. He didn't say a lot of sleep. He said a little sleep. So that could be one day without reading, right? One day without studying, right? One day without praying, right? One day without calling your brother, hitting them up, checking on them, whatever the case may be, right? That little bit of sleep, right, can cause you to fall off, right? That day you say, you know what? I've been studying all week. I need a break. I'm not going to read today. I'm not going to study today, right? And that'll be the day that, all hell breaks loose. That'll be the day that Satan comes and tries to sift you out, right? So we can't take no days off doing the work of the Lord, right? This is a 24/7 job, 24 hours a day, constantly, right? Constantly meditating in the word of the Lord, right? As it says in the book of Joshua 1 and verse 8, right? We got to constantly meditate in the word day and night, right? It says, yet a little sleep, yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, right? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, right? You're going to end up falling asleep, right? And fall back into that world, right? You're going to fall asleep and not wake back up into this truth, right? So we got to be careful with that, right? And understand that, look, the Lord don't need us, right? We should be thankful that the Lord's woken us up into this truth, right? That he woken us up and let us, know who we are as Israelites walking in this earth, right? To come back to our true nationality, our true heritage, right? It's a gift of the Lord, right? See, a lot of people think that because the Lord called us that they're chosen, but the scriptures say otherwise, right? He said, many are called, but few are chosen. Therefore, we got to make our calling and election sure, right? So we got to constantly be working, right? Fighting for it, right? Not everybody that go to basketball tryouts, right, our football tryouts, right, gets picked, right? Not everybody that's on the team gets to play on the field, right? You got some that just sits on the bench, right? So you got to make your calling and election sure so that, Lord willing, when the Lord comes, we be part of that number, right? We get beamed up into them chariots, right? We get to make it into the kingdom of heaven, right? But we got to labor to do so, right? We can't be lazy. You can't think that you're going to make it to the kingdom, right? Get beamed up in a chariot and you never read, right? You never study. You never fast, right? You never pray, right? It don't work like that. You got to constantly be laboring, right? You got to let the Lord sup with you, right? The Lord wants to give you this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. But what? It's you that rejects it, right? So we got to constantly be doing the work of the Lord, right? It says, Proverbs 16:11, so shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man, right? And if you don't labor, right, it say so shall your poverty come as one that travaileth, right? When you look that word poverty up, right, it goes into, being poor, right? A famine, right? And what happens when a famine hits, right? It brings forth death, right? So, you want to be lazy, it's going to bring forth death because you're not going to do the works of the Lord, right? And you're going to put other things before the Heavenly Father, which goes into idolatry, and the Lord ain't dealing with it. It's going to bring forth death. You're going to remain in the congregation of the dead, right? You're going to fall away. You're going to be plucked up by the roots, right? And we don't want that, right? So we got to come up out of that, repent, and do the works of the Heavenly Father. Let's get the book of Proverbs 24 and verse 30. Book of Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 30. And it reads, I went by the field of the slothful, right? And on the spiritual sense, right, this is the Lord, right? He said, I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was growing all over with thorns, right? The Lord came to this field. He didn't find no fruit in there. He said, look, it's nothing but thorns up in here. What's going on? This man ain't been laboring. He ain't been out there doing his husbandry, right? Tilling the ground, right? In a spiritual sense, man, this man he ain't been studying. He ain't been fasting. He ain't been praying, right? He ain't been bringing forth this word to nobody, right? He's just lazy, right? He just know he's an Israelite, right? She just knows she's an Israelite, and they ain't doing no works, right? The works go into different attributes, right? There's many different works you can do, from giving alms and charity, right, to reading and studying, right, to organizing feast days and so on and so forth, right? It's much work to be done, right? But we got to be willing to do it and not be slothful, right? Calling your brother and checking on him, making sure he all right, he's in the spirit, that's a work, right? You got to be checking on your brothers, right, and on your sisters, making sure that their spirits is uplifted, right? And if they're dealing with something, to help them through that, right? Reading on. Proverbs 24 and 30. I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was growing all over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof. And the stone wall thereof was broken down, right? And the stone wall that was there to protect, this field was broken down. Which means what? It gave, in a spiritual sense, right? You're not laboring. You're not doing the works of the Lord, right? You're supposed to be bringing forth righteous fruit, right? But if the Lord comes, checks on your spirit, he finds nothing but wickedness, which represents those thorns, right? The protection of the Lord, he's not going to protect you in that day, right? Which represents that wall. It's broken down, right? Which gives what? It gives leeway for all type of spirits to come within your vessel and defile you and cause you to go off, right? That's why it's important to read and to study and to fast and to pray constantly, right? Because if not, you're gonna be like this field, right? You're gonna be like this field with the stone wall that's broken down, and you got all type of demons and spirits that's latching on to you, right? So we gotta labor so that doesn't happen to us, right? Reading on, it says, Proverbs 24 and 32. Then I saw and considered it. Well, I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man, right? It's going to bring forth death, right? The Lord's telling us over and over. He's like, look, labor, or you're going to be plucked up. You got to continue to work and labor. It's no different from going to your job, right? You gotta set schedule at your job. If you decide not to show up, what's going to happen? You decide, you know what? Hey, I'm not coming to work today. I'm not calling in. I'm not calling off. I'm just not showing up. Guess what? You're going to be rooted out. You're going to be fired, right? Then you show up to work and you say, look, I'm not doing nothing, I'm going to chill in the break room all day, right? They're going to send you home. They're going to get you up out of there and replace your spot, right? They're going to send somebody else to take your place. It's the same thing being in this truth, right? You don't want to labor. You just know you're Israelite. You don't want to do none of the works of the Lord, right? The Lord, he has that spot reserved for somebody that's better than you, right? He'll give it to him, right? He'll remove you, take his Holy Spirit from you, right? Remove his spirit from you, blow out your candlestick and give it to somebody that's much more worthy, right? And that's a scary thing to go through, right? So therefore, you know, we got to continue to work, right? And give our honor, glory, and praises to the Most High God, so that the Most High God is glorified in everything that we do, right? It's highly important, right? Salakia. Let's get the book of Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 4. And it reads, the soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, right? So the soul of the sluggard, right, they desire to have, right? You got people that don't want to work, right? They don't got no job, they don't want no job, but they constantly desire to have things, right? How are they going to obtain these things that they want if they never work? You got people that desire to have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. How you going to get it if you're not doing the works of the Lord? You're not reading, you're not studying, right? You're not praying, you're not fasting, right? You're not doing anything that the Lord requires of us, right? You're not keeping the commandments. And how you expect to get this wisdom, right? You desire to have it, right? But you're not doing the work to obtain those things. It's not going to happen like that, right? You can't desire to have something and it just comes in and it pops up at your doorstep, right? You got to work for it. Proverbs 13 and 4. The soul of the sluggard desireth and have nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. But the soul of the diligent, those who are constantly reading, right? Day in and day out, constantly meditating, constantly studying, right? Constantly, you know, going through these precepts, constantly, you know, examining themselves, constantly, you know, going through the law, statute, commandments, right? The Lord said his soul shall be made fat. He's going to be spiritually fed, right? And the Lord, he requires that, and that's what he wants. He wants from us, right? Reading on. Let me get the book of Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 4. All right? Proverbs 20 and 4. It says, the sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing, right? The sluggard, he won't plow by reason of the cold, right? You got some people that won't go out and do the works of the Lord because it's cold outside, right? It might be raining, right? It might be snowing. But then you have other brothers that go out, other sisters, you know, brothers and sisters, you know, whatever the case may be, that they labor continuously, right? No matter the season, right? But it says the sluggard will not plow by reason of cold. Therefore shall he beg in the harvest, right? He's going to beg in the harvest, right? And nobody's going to want to give to him, right? Because he chose not to go out there and do the work. He chose to be lazy, right? He kind of sat back in his house and watched other brothers labor and said, when they go, you know, when they go to the harvest, you know, I'm gonna eat from them, right? And the brother's gonna be like, no, man, I seen you being lazy, right? I seen you not want to study and fast and pray, right? I was giving you precepts, right? I was calling you and checking that you want to go over a lesson, you want to study, you want to fast, you want to pray, you know, and the brother kept rejecting it, right? So we can't be like that, right? We got to continue to labor no matter what, right? There's a book of Proverbs chapter 26 and verse 13. And it reads, the slothful man saith, there is a lion in the way, a lion is in the streets. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doeth the slothful upon his bed. Right? So as the door turns upon his hinges, so does Salakia. Read again. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doeth the slothful upon his bed. Right? Because they lazy. They don't want to get up. Right? It's just like an old squeaky door. You open it and they don't want to open. Right? It's squeaking, making all type of noise. Right? It's the same way a slothful man is upon his bed. Right? He doesn't want to get up. Right? He wants to lay in bed all day and watch TV and eat snacks. Right? He don't want to get up and do nothing but be lazy. Right? And that's going to bring forth death at the end of the day. Right? You can't do that. And on a carnal level, right? If you doing that on a carnal level, right? You sitting on the couch all day, right? You don't want to get up, exercise. You don't want to do anything, right? It brings forth sickness, right? Things start to happen, right? So we can't be lazy, right? We got to continue to do the labor of the Most High God. It says, the slothful hideth his hand in his bosom, and it grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth, right? The slothful, say he hides his hand in his bosom, and he's too damn lazy to bring his hand back out to his mouth, right? Brother, too damn Bible right in front of him, right? But he too lazy to pick it up and open it and read it, right? He got all the precepts written down, but he's too lazy to go over it and study it, right? We can't be like that, you know? Reading on. It says, Proverbs 26 and verse 16. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit, right? So the sluggard, he's wise in his own conceit, right? He feels like he's right in his own mind, right? Following after his own way, right? It says, then 7 men that render a reason, right? But we can't be like that. We can't be wise in our own hearts, right? We got to do the work that the Lord requires of us, not the work that we feel like we should do for the Lord, right? Let me get the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 18. Book of Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 18. It says, by much slothfulness, the building decayeth, right? So by much slothfulness, a building decays, right? Say, for instance, if you have a couple of people that's building, you know, in construction, they're building up a building, right? They're building up a building, right? Or a house or whatever the case may be, right? But then they get lazy on the job. What happens? It's never going to get done, right? That house is going to slowly decay, right? They stop midway in building this construction, this house or this building, right? And then the rain comes, the snow comes, right? And that wood starts to slowly decay, and it's no good no more, right? And on the spiritual sense, right? Read again, it says, by much lawfulness, the building decay, right? And we're supposed to be building up this spirit, you know, the kingdom of the Most High God spiritually, right? But how are we going to do that if we're not working, right? How are we not doing that? We already at the end of this thing, right? We see the prophecies coming to pass. All hell's breaking loose, right? And then you want to stop and say, you know what? I don't feel like reading right now. I don't feel like studying right now, right? I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like going to going to a Sabbath class, right? I don't feel like going out to the highways and byways, right? What are you doing, right? Those spiritual stones that you laid up, you know, helping build the kingdom spiritually, right? Those stones are now decaying and they're going to be casted away. They're going to be not useful, right? And you want to be, you know, partaking in building up the kingdom of the Most High God spiritually, right? We want to partake in that. Ecclesiastes 10 and 18. By much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. See that? Through the idleness of hands the house drops through, right? That house is going to crumble. That building is going to crumble. It's going to fall, right? It's not going to last, right? So we can't be like that. We got to continue to labor, right? So that we can continue to build this house up, right? We can continue to build, the kingdom of the Most High God. Continue putting our building blocks in there spiritually, right? We got to continue to work into labor, right? Get the book of Romans chapter 12 and verse 10. Book of Romans chapter 12 and verse 10, and it reads, verse 10. Be kindly affection one to another with brotherly love, and honor, preferring one another, not slothful in business, right? We can't be slothful in business, right? For instance, on a carnal sense, again, if you have a business and you're slothful, right? You're not contacting none of your clients, right? They ordering things online. You're not shipping nothing out, right? You never showing up. You're not paying no bills, right? You're not doing anything, right? You just got the business that's in your name, right? What's going to happen? That building is, that business is going to crumble, right? It's not going to last, right? It says, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, right? So we can't be slothful in business. Right, this is the Most High's business. Then Yahweh I say, I'm about my Father's business. Right, we got to be the same way. Right, Christ was what? He was in the synagogues. Right, he was out there with the elders, learning and getting all this wisdom, so that, you know, when he began his ministry, man, he was very bright. Even though we know Christ is the Word, so he already knew. Right, but Christ was constantly in there, you know, learning. Right. Shalaki, let me see if I can find that real quick. Shalakia. Shalakia, real quick. Can't remember it off the top of the head. But Lord willing, it comes to me. I'll pull it if it comes to me. But reading on back in Romans 12 and 10, 12 and 11. Not slothful in business, right? Fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, right? We got to constantly be serving the Lord, right? This is our job, right? This is our job. And if you don't do the work of the Lord, you're going to get fired, right? Just like you'll get fired in your job, you know, in this world, right? You don't show up, you don't work, you don't do what's required of you, they're going to fire you and replace you with somebody better. Same thing with the Most High God, right? Let's get the book of Proverbs chapter 21 verse 25. Book of Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 25. And it reads, the desire of the slothful killeth him, right? The desire of the slothful, it kills him, right? Because he desires to have things, he constantly wants it. He's seeing everything that everybody else has, right? But he himself, Salakia, is not doing any work. He's not doing anything, right? He's not taking action to get the things that he desires to have, right? Brothers in this truth, they see brothers on fire. They see brothers memorizing precepts. They're bringing out mighty lessons, and they desire to be like that, right? But they don't want to do the labor. They don't want to work. And what? It becomes envy, right, in a bad way, right? Then they start to hate these brothers and feel some type of way about them because they didn't want to do the labor. They decided to be slothful and not do the work, right? And wondering why they don't have wisdom and understanding to be able to, you know, be mighty and bring out, you know, the word just as other brothers, which they could if they was to do the work, right? Reading again, Proverbs 21 and 25. The desire of the slothful killeth him, right? For his hands refuse to labor. His hands refuse to labor, right? And in a carnal sense, right? If a man is slothful, he desires to have things, right? Say you have a field, right? And you desire to have all these fruits and vegetables and all these things, but you never go out and sow the seed, right? What's going to happen, right? You're not going to have nothing to reap, right? You're going to have nothing to eat. And it's going to bring forth death, and you're going to die of famine, right? It says, he coveted greedily all the day long. And he's going to start to covet greedily, right, after other brothers, you know, labors, right? After other brothers' works. But he himself, you know, is too lazy to go out and to do the work, right? We can't be like that, right? Let's get the book of Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 5. Proverbs 10 and 5. It says, he that gathereth in the summer is a wise son. Let's lock it. Let me see. It says, he that gathereth in the summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causes shame, right? So those who gather in the summer is a wise son. Why? Because he planted in the winter, right? He has something to pluck up and to gather, right, when summer comes around, right? He has that summer fruit, right? But he that sleepeth in the harvest, right, is a son that causeth shame, right? But those who sleep and they don't want to go out and do the work, he's a son that causes shame, right? How you gonna feed your family, right? You ain't gonna be able to. How you gonna be able to teach your wife and your children, but you never read, you never study, right? You don't want to do nothing, right? How you gonna be able to guide and lead your family to the Most High God if you're not willing to do the works, right? We can't be like that. We got to come up out of that weak nature, right? Get the book of Proverbs 12 and verse 27. Book of Proverbs 12 and verse 27. It says, the slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of the diligent man is precious, right? So the slothful man, he roasted not that which he took in hunting, right? Because he didn't go out and hunt nothing, he ain't gonna have nothing to eat, right? The scriptures tell you, and we're gonna get it. It says, look, if you don't work, you don't eat, right? And on the spiritual level, if you don't do the works of the Most High God, how you gonna expect to get the wisdom? How you gonna expect to get the kingdom, right? How you gonna expect to be spiritually fed if you never pick up your scriptures and read them, right? You got to go into it. You got to dig into this thing, right? It's a feast before your face, but you hungry, right? And it's a feast before your eyes. It's before your face, but you too lazy to dig in and to eat, right? You want to be spoon-fed, right? It don't work like that, right? Let's get the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse 10, right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 in verse 10. It says, for even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. So if you don't work, you don't eat, right? You don't work, you don't eat, right? If you don't keep the commandments, right? You don't fast, you don't study, you don't pray, right? You're not going to be spiritually fed, right? You're going to slowly decay. You're going to turn back to those bones, right? That the Most High asked Ezekiel, can these bones live? You're going to be those bones all over again, right? With no flesh, right? Just, pretty much dust, right? And we don't want to be that, right? We want to continue to grow in this truth, right? Continue to, to do the works of the Lord, and be humble in the eyes of the Lord, so that anything we do and everything we do, the Most High God is glorified in it, right? Let's get the book of Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 12. Book of Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 12. It says, that ye be not slothful, but followers of them, who through faith and patience inherit the promises, right? So we said, be not slothful, right? So that we can inherit the promises, right? The kingdom of heaven, right? We ain't going to obtain those things if we're slothful, right? We're not going to obtain those things if we don't want to do the works of the Most High God, right? We are the Lord's servants, right? Let's get that. Because we're a lot of people just think, I don't know what they think, but just because you're an Israelite don't mean you saved, right? You still got to do works, right? You still got to do the work. Just because you're an Israelite, it don't mean nothing, right? Just because you're called don't mean you're chosen, right? That's the book of Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 55. For unto me, the children of Israel are servants. Servants, right? We serve the Lord. We do the works of the Lord, right? That's what that says. It says, they are my servants, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. We are the servants of the Lord, right? And servants work. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, laboring day in and day out, right? Let's get the book of Matthew chapter 25 and verse 26, right? Because when you go into the parable of the talents, right? What happened to the man that didn't use his talents, right? The Lord called him a slothful servant. And what happened to him? Right, let's read it. Book of Matthew chapter 25 and verse 14. It says, for the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, right? And this man represent, in a spiritual sense, right, Yahushua, right? Traveling to a far country. It says, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, and unto another 2, and to another 1, and to every man according to his several abilities, and straightway took his journey, right? So the Lord, he delivered his talents. He delivered these gifts to certain men, right? Brothers in the truth, right? He delivered us. He gave us this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, right? Some may be able to, break down prophecies and parables and dark sayings. Some may only know how to break down Deuteronomy 28, right? Some, know how to break down, certain precepts and lessons, right? Going into the law, statutes, and commandments. Right, the Lord delivered these things unto us, and he expects for us to use them and to multiply them, to go forth and bring forth fruit out of them, right? It says, Matthew 25 and verse 16. Then he that had received 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them five other, and made them other 5 talents. Verse 17. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid the Lord's money, right? So you had the 2 wise servants, the one who had 5 talents, he went and multiplied that. The one who had 2, he went and multiplied his. But the one who had 1, right, he went and go hid his treasures, right? He went and go hide his talents, right? Which in representation on the spiritual sense is a brother who, he knows he's an Israelite, right? He can read real good, right? He can break down certain precepts, right? But he refuses to do the work. Right, he gets slothful, he gets lazy, and he just wants to sit back and chill and say, I'm an Israelite, right? And wear the fringes and grow the beard, and that's all he wants to do, right? He doesn't want to do the work of the Lord. Let's see what happens to this servant. Reading on, it says, but he that, in verse 18, Matthew 25 and verse 18, but he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid the Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them, right? So when the Lord comes back, right, he expects to find fruit, right? He expects to find Those talents he gave us multiplied, right? It says, verse 20, and so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained besides them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Verse 22. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents besides them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Verse 24. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, and reaping where thou hast not sown, and gather where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid my talent, so I can hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast, that is thine. Right? So this servant that had the 1 talent, right, he probably couldn't, break down, mighty lessons. He couldn't go into the prophecies, right? But he knew how to read real good, right? He knew, how to break down Deuteronomy 28, right? But he still refused to do it, right? He just said, no, I'm not doing it, right? What happened to him? He says, his Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sow not, and I gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, then at my coming I should have received my own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give to him that hath 10 talents. You see that? The Lord said, you wicked and slothful servant. Right? You don't want to read. You don't want to study. You don't want to fast. You don't want to pray. You don't want to do the works. You just are Israelite, and you just know you Israel, and that's all you about. Right? The Lord ain't dealing with slothfulness. Right? We got to read day in, day out. Right? In the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 3, what did the Lord say? Revelations 1 and 3. It says, Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. The Lord said it, blessed are those who read, right? You got to read. It's the book of 2 Timothy 2 and 15. It says, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh. We got to constantly study to show ourselves approved to the Most High God, right? Not to the next man, trying to prove how much knowledge and wisdom you got to try to confound the next brother. It's like the next brother. You got to study to show yourself approved to the Most High God, because the Most High God is the one we glorify in all things that we do. It says, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed. Right? A workman that needeth not to be ashamed. Right? Because you're a workman, and you're working hard and you're laboring. Right? It's going to show in your works. Right? It's going to show in your work. Right? It's no different on the carnal sense. You go to work, right? You're doing your work. You're working real hard. Right? You stand out. Right? And you're the one that they call and say, look, you know what? We want to move you up in the company. We want to offer you a better position, a better pay. Why? Because they saw your works, right? And it's a profit, right? How can I say? It's good for their company, right? And in a spiritual sense, right? When we study to show ourselves approved, more workmen for the Most High God laboring, right? We're good for his ministry to go forth and preach this gospel to our people, so the Lord willing, they can wake up and come back to the Lord, right? It says, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, right? And that's what we got to do constantly, day in and day out, right? Constantly doing the work of the Lord, right? Not being slothful, not doing what we want to do, right? Trying to praise the Lord however we want to praise him, right? But doing what the Lord has commanded us, right? Kind of doing what the Lord has commanded us, so the Lord willing, we can make it to the kingdom, Lord willing, right? Because if not, if you're slothful, what happens if you're slothful, right? Satan comes within, right? And he'll cause you to go off and cause you to fall, right? This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 5 and verse 8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, right? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour, right? You got to be sober, be vigilant, right? Constantly studying and fasting and praying, right? So when these wicked thoughts, and spirits try to hop on you, you know how to combat against them, right? When that brother or sister comes up to you and asks you, hey, what's that on the bottom of your shirt, right? You know how to go into the scriptures and break it down and let them know, right? This is not for show, right? This is not fashion, right? But you give them the spiritual sense of why you wear it, right? Or whatever the case may be, right? So that you can, Lord willing, plant a seed and wake up the next brother or sister, that they may, you may save a soul, right? The scripture says, wise is he, wise are those who save souls, right? And that's what it's about. We out here trying to save our brother's souls, But Lord willing, I wanted to put that precept with Yahushai. He said about my father's business. But I can't even think of it right now off the top of my head. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but like I said, Lord willing, this video is edifying, so at least one brother or sister. To the next video, Shalom.